In our business and at our firm, it's all about preparation, preparation, preparation. We are advocates for our client. We speak for them. So as a part of that advocacy, it involves hiring the best experts. It's doing the legal research. It's doing the medical research. That is advocacy behind the scenes. It's not just the bells and whistles in front of the jury.
Well, hello and welcome, football fans, to the Skordle Pater Pick'em Show, sponsored by Maples, Knicks, and Diesel Horse. I am your host, Andy Campbell. Looking forward to talking to Week 5 high school football with this panel of experts. Mark Rogers, Tom Nelson, Jacob Diesel Horse here as always. Our guest picker tonight is Nick Friesen. Nick is doing a great job as a writer for the Enid News and Eagle, covering sports across the state of Oklahoma, but especially focusing on the sports there in Northwest Oklahoma. Nick, great to have you on tonight.
Appreciate y'all for having me.
We're going to discuss our 8 network games that you can watch for free on Skordle.tv. We'll also discuss 4 of the best non-network games in the state of Oklahoma this week. So let's go ahead and get started with Pick'em game number 1. We are going to kick off the show with a District 2A1 matchup. Blackwell is winless so far on the season, but will look for their first win against the 2-2 Perry Maroons this week. And who else could we start with except Mark Rogers?
Well, this rivalry began in 1912. That's a long time ago. The Blackwell Maroons won the first one 13-12. Head coach Ralph Lovett on the sidelines there. I think they've played every year since 1940. I had my paperwork here earlier. I could show you. The 1940 season was a really good one for Blackwell. They were 8-2-1, but the official records that I got from the high school only show 6 games that year. So they may have played Perry. I don't know. And if they did play Perry that year, then the rivalry extends back unbroken even past then. So Tom's going to tell you since World War II in 1944, the series is 46 for Perry, 34 for Blackwell. I can tell you this guy never lost a football game to Perry. We didn't have a Perry problem from 1986 to 1988, or 1985 to 1987. Sorry. I would like for this to be the sweet chalice of victory right here. Let me get into the picture. But I've won 16 games in a row, so I got to pick with my head, not my heart. I'm going to go with Perry. They play really good right now. Jackson Cunningham, their quarterback. Wheelan Carson, big wide receiver, scored 4 touchdowns against Manford. And this is probably a name your score special here, so I like Perry. And I tell you what, I'm not afraid to throw some money down if Jacob sets this line too low like he's been doing the last couple of weeks.
Mark going against the alma mater. Tom Nelson, let's go to you.
Yeah, Blackwell winless. They've given up at least 41 points in 3 of their 4 losses. That other loss was to Newkirk. They only gave up 6, but they only scored 2. Got beat 6-2. The defense got it done. Offense didn't help. I like Marcus Odom. He's the head coach over at Blackwell. Great guy. Know him from here in Enid. But he's taken his lumps this year, and he's going to get them going eventually, but I don't think it's going to happen this week. Perry's 2-2, shut out by Jones in their first district game last week. Like Mark said, this goes back to, way back on this one. And Perry leads the series, but Mark has won 16 straight, has 16 correct picks in a row in this on this show. That's one more than Perry has 15 straight wins in this series since Blackwell's last win back in 2008. I'm not going to pick against those numbers. The Perry Maroons will get it done. They're going to get well this week against Blackwell.
Nick.
Yeah, I like Perry in this one. Rival games, usually there's something strange could happen usually, but, I think Blackwell's barely scored probably 25 points combined all season this year, and Perry's 2-2 and played Alva, who's a top team in Class 2A2, who's really, really good top team, and I just like Perry in this one. I think they win pretty easily against Blackwell.
Jacob Resource.
Yeah, Blackwell's struggled this season. Their closest game was a 6-2 loss to Newkirk. I think that's what the score was.
6-2.
It's not just been this season, by the way.
Yeah. And going into Perry, while this might be a rivalry game, Perry has played a tough schedule. They've had a really solid win over Luther. Both their losses are to talented teams, Alva and then Jones. last week. I got Perry a 41-point favorite, and I have them winning the game 49-7.
Okay, so Mark, what do you think? What line?
That's probably a good number. It's right. It's right around in there. Let me tell you a quick story that you guys might not know. Hall of Fame basketball coach David Page was once the Mike Leach of junior high football. And the 8th grade Blackwell Maroons would line up in side huddle. We would do all kinds of things, and we laid it on Perry a couple of times. But we played them twice in 8th and 9th grade, one home, one away. So the end of the 8th grade season, we were undefeated, had to beat Perry to remain undefeated. And somehow this black wreath showed up in Page's classroom. And so he tried to tell all of us in the 8th grade that came from Perry, that they were sending us a bunch of black roses because it was going to be the death of our undefeated season. And so he brought that thing on the bus and had us all stomp on it. At the end of it, we were pretty gullible. I still think that Perry sent that to us. It was a bad motivational move. So anyway, Dave Page could really coach him some football, some offensive football.
You know, one thing I want to throw in is something that's a little closer than what the score might be in this football game is in the past couple of months, I've had a chance to play both the Blackwell Country Club and the Perry Country Club. And they're both old school Perry Maxwell designs. And that's a closer mix than that's a pretty close match. Those are two nice little old school golf courses. I might give Perry a bit of an edge, but
now wait a minute. You've gone too far now. I mean, I will not stand for the blasphemy of the Blackwell Golf Course, which is run by Barrett Shoup, the offensive coordinator at Tuttle's brother, who was formerly at Oak Tree National. So he knows a thing or two about how to run a golf course. So Tom Nelson's shame on you for disparaging the Blackwell Golf Course.
No, I'm saying it was close. I tell you what, I enjoyed playing him. I will go back and play both of them again.
I'll make sure you never get on the Blackwell course for the rest of your life.
Watch that matchup for free, Blackwell at Perry on Skordle.tv or PerryMaroons.tv. Let's move to Class 4A with a massive game in Blanchard on Friday. The Lions are undefeated after a 21-7 win at Hera last week. Bethany Broncos also 4-0 on the season, but listen to their schedule in the next few weeks. At Blanchard, then they get Tuttle and Hera at home. A lot of tough games here coming up for Blanchard. Mark Rogers, tell us about this matchup.
It should be a good game, man. Bethany's got one of the top programs around. They just kind of consistently hang in there, and there are years in which they get the dub on Blanchard or Tuttle, vice versa. Jackson Payne, their quarterback, has had some good success. He threw for 1,500 yards last year, so he's a returning starter. Their tailback, Judson Gilliland, is also a good player. Blanchard's got dudes all over the field. They got, just a bunch of wide receiver, defensive backs types that force turnovers. And so I think the key in this game will be if Bethany can hang on to the football, they'll have a chance to play this one close. But I'm going with the defending state champs in this game. But I think Bethany is a definite playoff team in that really, really tough district.
Tom.
Yeah, Bethany's good. They returned a lot of talent off that team that went 6-5 a year ago, and they're off to the start that they're kind of gotten used to, winning 8 and 9 games in the previous 2 years before that. 4-0, got a nice win over Jones 3 weeks ago. Mark mentioned Jackson Payne. He's really built some good chemistry with his favorite receiver, Wyatt Geisler. 19 receptions for 8 touchdowns for Wyatt. But Blanchard keeps rolling along, 16 straight wins, which ironically is the same amount of wins that Mark has in a row in this contest. Just throwing that out there again. And Hera gave them a battle last week. They scored first, but would not score again. Blanchard won 21-7. Blanchard's back at home, and I think Coach Craig's Lions get their 17th win in a row and go one past Mark.
Nick.
Yeah, whenever I went to Weatherford High School in 4A1, and every time we'd get to the playoffs, we knew we were going to play one of the top teams in the state, no matter where they finish in 4A2 with Bethany, Blanchard, Tuttle, and all of them. I like Bethany in this one. They were averaging 43 a game, beat top 2A1 team in Jones. I like Judson Gillen, like you said, Mark, two-way star. He had 10 rushing touchdowns last season. They do have a tough 2-week stretch with Blanchard and Tuttle this next week, but I think I like Bethany in this one to move to 5-0 and make it pretty good, get a lead in the district.
Nick says, not so fast, my friends. Going against the grain, taking Bethany Broncos. Jacob Diesehorst, Bethany at Blanchard.
Yeah, this is going to be a great game. You got 2 top 10 teams in 4A, 2 undefeated top 10 teams. two teams that have played tough schedules, that have big wins against ranked teams in other classes. Bethany, beat Jones on the road at Jones. Blanchard beat Guthrie and Newcastle. Those were two really good, solid wins, and then one on the road last week at Hera. This is going to be an excellent game. It's going to be a good football game between two really good teams that will still be playing late into the year and early next year, possibly. But I just think Blanchard is, with the home field advantage, is going to have a slight edge this Friday night. I got them a touchdown favorite at home, and I have them winning the game 28-21.
The over-under for the Bethany bus is 30 after they pass that Sonic coming into towns. If it's going anything over than that, they may be late for the game. That's the biggest speed trap around. So make sure Bethany wants to get there on time, that they're being obedient for the speed limit.
Good advice there. Pick'em game number 3 from the champ in 4A to the champion of 5A. The Carl Albert Titans are undefeated yet again. Coach Dunn's defense hasn't given up a single point yet so far on the season, shutting out Midwest City, Eisenhower, Stillwater, and Western Heights. The El Reno Indians are 2-2 and look to pull off the upset on the road on Friday. Tom Nelson, let's go to you.
Well, this is the shortest notes I had for a game all night. And you mentioned Carl Albert's not giving up a point. They've outscored the opposition 213-0. El Reno's 2-2 with wins over teams that are a combined 1-7. That equals a long, long night for El Reno.
Mark?
I was at Carl Albert's practice a couple of weeks ago. I went out there to give the Pancake of the Week award to Cody Volker, who's an outstanding two-way player for them. And coaches, we need pancakes. Video of pancakes. I got a bunch of gift certificates to come bring you to Neighborhood Jam, which is a great thing. So all you got to do is send us good video of one of your guys laying a slobber knocker on somebody else and get some good publicity. So I talked to Mike Dunn tonight. Carl Albert shut out 3 teams in a row in 2018. They'd never shut out 4 teams in a row before, I think, in the history of the program. So we start to talk about this Carl Albert team in terms that are reverent, that we reserve maybe at times for Jinx and what we have here lately for Bixby. If they win the championship this year, they'll have won it 8 times in 9 years. This team doesn't have Kevin Sperry on it, but they're still really, really good. I thought last year's team was the best that they've ever had at the school. This year's team is following in that footsteps. Caden Davis he is not as highly recruited as some of the other players that have committed to OU, but he is a war daddy at defensive end. This team has made 63 tackles for losses and 11 sacks so far in 4 games, and Davis and Volker are really good players up front on the defensive line. Good luck to anybody in 5A. This team is a beast. They're going to win this game, and I think they're going to win the rest of them.
Nick, you going to take the upset again?
Oh, no, not with Carl Albert. Carl Albert's just a well-oiled machine. Stillwater came into Enid. Enid had their way with them in the first half. Stillwater pulled away in the second half, and I was like, okay, well, maybe Stillwater got some confidence rolling and everything, and then Carl Albert comes in, shuts them out 20. I think it was like 22-0 or something like that. So until Carl Albert gives up the point or even just loses the game, I'm not picking against them. So give me Carl Albert in this one.
Jacob?
Yeah, so here's Carl Albert's scores: 49-0, 70-0, 31-0 against a top 2 team in 6A1, Stillwater, and then last week 63-0. Just domination. This football team, Carl Albert, could compete in 6A1. They could compete, absolutely. They're as good on both sides of the ball as the top tier teams in 6A1. El Reno is a good football team. El Reno has played tough opponents, done well. Will probably be pushing for a playoff spot in 5A, but they're going to be in for a long night Friday night, I'm afraid. Carl Albert, I have them a 45-point favorite, and I have them winning the game 49-6. I do think El Reno will put up a late touchdown. 49-6.
That's another 15 in a row in that series, Carl Albert over El Reno.
Well, OU fans, if you want to watch some commits, watch them for free. Skordle.tv, ElRenoIndians.tv. Let's move on to game number 4. Back to 2A for another great matchup as 2 3-1 teams look to take control of District 2A1. The Jones Longhorns' only loss of the season was by a touchdown to that Bethany team that we mentioned earlier. Millwood's only defeat was by a field goal to Heritage Hall a couple of weeks ago. Mark, give us a breakdown on Jones at Millwood.
Yeah, those are 2 3-1 teams, and we got a couple other teams in that district that are 4-0 right now. Mount St. Mary and OCS. The breakdown on this one is what a great game. I mean, this is like a semifinal matchup in Class 2A. Jones is good all the way across the board. They're good up front. They're really good on defense and the defensive line. They've got a good quarterback. They've got skilled running back. They got a big running back. They can throw the ball all over the field. But I think that Millwood's a little bit better. Millwood's got all those kind of things too, and a lot of players that have started the last 2 seasons on a team that has played for the state championship and come up a little bit short against Washington. So they're kind of playing on a mission. They took Heritage Hall to the wire at home last week, and lost that game by 3. And so playing up against Heritage Hall in Class 3A, that's an impressive feat. So I think Millwood will get the win here. I think they're the team to beat in this district.
Tom.
Great matchup here. Jones's defense, they've been great so far, have posted a couple of shutouts. Millwood's got those playmakers that always pose challenges. Senior running back Cameron Carter, receiver Xavier Thompson. That's going to be a great matchup. Offensively for Jones, Asen Hansen's a weapon at quarterback. 70% completions this year so far, 226 yards a game. He leads the Longhorns in rushing as well. This is a tough pick. I'm going to go with the home team. Give me Millwood in this one.
Nick.
Like I've said, there's going to be athletes all over the field in this one, and it's nice that we're going to get like a top matchup in this district and everything early in the season with all that's going on in there. And I think this will be a shootout, but I just like Millwood in this one with all their athletes and just their speed. I think they'll just outscore Jones basically in this one.
3 picks for the Falcons so far. Let's go to Jacob Resource.
Yeah, this is an excellent game. Again, we're talking about 2 teams that will, depending on how their draw goes in 2A1, we'll be playing deep into December and challenging for the state semifinals and the state finals and the title, depending on how the draw goes and the bounce of the ball. And this is going to be a great matchup, like everyone said. Just a lot of talent. Jones has the players to compete with Millwood. Jones has the coaching. Jones has the defense to hopefully contain Millwood enough offense, I think, to stay in the game. I think Millwood being at home is an advantage. But ultimately, this is going to be a tight football game, and I agree, a high-scoring game. I got Millwood a 2.5-point favorite at home, and I have them winning the game 35-30.
All right, entire panel taking Millwood. Let's go to game number 5. District A5 is the undefeated Moreland Bearcats travel to Texoma to take on the 3-1 Red Devils. Texoma coming off that big win at Southwest Covenant a week ago. Moreland has been impressive this season, but faces perhaps their biggest test so far on the year. Tom, I'll start with you.
I picked against Texoma last week, and they made me look bad. They beat Covenant 30-25. They're now 3-1, handed Covenant their first loss. Moreland's 4-0, and the scores look impressive. They've outscored Crescent and Cordell the past couple of weeks, 116-14, but none of their wins in those 4 games none of those teams have more than 1 win. So I'm going to take my medicine, going to learn my lesson. Moreland's got a pretty substantial drive way out in the panhandle to Texoma, and I will take the home team. Texoma's going to win this game.
Mark?
Texoma's only losses to Groover, Texas, who's really good. They got hammered in that game. They did beat Spearman, who's got a good team, and that was a nice road win for him last week. But Moreland, I think, Moreland beat Texoma last year. I don't think the home road dichotomy is enough to flip this one. So Moreland they're in it to win it in this class. I mean, they're really good. It's a good group in Class A Division 2. Woodland is awesome. They've got a really solid team, but I think Moreland is going to be right there in the hunt for the championship. I got the Bearcats over the Red Devils. And I don't know who wins in the Thunderdome between a Bearcat and a Red Devil. Probably the Devil, based on his mystical powers. But I would say that on the football field, it will go to the Bearcats.
Nick.
Yeah, I like Moreland in this one. I know the scores have looked very impressive, but like you said, Tom, there's some of these teams that they're not really good that they played against. But I think this is one of those games where they can show out and show like the class and the district and everything that they're here to fight. They're here to win this championship this year. So I know it'll be a long drive and everything, but I like Moreland in this one.
Jacob, Moreland at Texoma. Let's go to you.
Yeah, this is going to be both these teams coming in off big wins last week. Moreland, a blowout win over Cordell. Moreland hasn't played the schedule Texoma's played, not even close. Texoma went and played one of the best teams in Texas, small school teams in Texas on the road, played Spearman, Texas on the road, and went to Southwest Covenant last week, which again is a very solid team in Class A2, a top 10 team, and won on the road 30-25. So while I do agree that Moreland is an excellent team, a top 5 team in Class A2, I think going on the road to Texoma, Texoma is the favorite. I have them a 2.5 point favorite at home, and I have Texoma winning a tight one, 31-30.
And it's not just Texoma; it's Goodwell too. So
Texoma Goodwell, yeah.
Yeah.
Mark, your 16-game streak is really on the line here. You've had several. Tom has picked against you. Nick's picked against you. Now Jake's picking against you. So you could be in trouble with your streak here.
I'll ride with the good people of Moreland and another golf course that's pretty nice, like Boiling Springs, that they get the victory in this one.
We're trying to jack up ratings. We need some controversy. We need some of this. So yeah.
Craving a dessert that's simply irresistible? Indulge in Brahms Molten Lava Cake Sundae. Ripples of hot fudge layered on chocolate bundt cakes, and scoops of Brahms premium vanilla ice cream, topped with more fudge and showered with toasted almonds. This Sunday is a chocolate lover's delight with whipped cream and a cherry on top. For a dessert that's irresistible, try Brahms Molten Lava Cake Sundae.
We'll stay in Class A for our next pick'em game. The Cashin Wildcats, 3-1 after a homecoming win over Merritt last week. The Watauga Eagles are winless so far this season, but look to rebound this week after a tough game against Fairview a week ago. Tom Nelson, let's start with you.
Now, Coach Shack is getting the program back at Cashin, getting it back on track. He's filling the cupboard a little bit after a couple of losing seasons. Wins over Hennessy, Ringling, and Merritt sandwiched that one loss at Velma Alma. This district is tough, though, with Fairview and Hooker at the top. So this game is huge when thinking of the playoffs on down the road. It's been a long season in Watauga already, and the one small positive is that Fairview is in the rearview mirror after last week's 69-34 loss to the Jackets. Now, these two teams have played 14 of the last 16 years. Cashin is 13-1, and there was a nice story in the Oklahoman last week about Cashin's female kicker, Adelie Jerry. I think she's going to get quite a few chances to kick extra points, and I'll pick the Wildcats to get their 14th, actually 15th, 14th season win. They'll be 14-1 if they win. So,
Cashin at Watauga. Mark Rogers, let's go to you.
I think Cashin is back and making a little move up after a couple of years of being down and just having low participation. So they've got some good numbers in the smaller classes, and Coach Shack, as usual, is not tipping his hand at how good his team can be. And when he's not doing that, I think that they're kind of in a dangerous spot. So they challenge themselves in the non-district portion of their schedule, and so I think that Cashin wins this game against Watauga.
Nick.
Yeah, I know Watonga's got to be happy that they played Fairview early in the year because that was not a good one last Friday. I think Cashin wins this one like y'all said. I think they just have more talent. I mean, Watonga, I know they got new coach in there trying to rebuild the structure and the program and everything. I just think Cashin's just going to have way too much talent, way too many athletes and like that. And I think they're just going to run away with this one.
Jacob.
Yeah, it's good to see Cashin back in the top 10 in A1. It's good to see them on a winning streak, winning back-to-back games. A really good win against Ringling, a very good Ringling team, and a good win to start the season at Hennessy. Watonga is on the struggle bus a little bit this season. I think they're kind of in a little bit of a rebuilding period here, back from the glory days of when I was in high school, and Watonga was an absolute powerhouse at every sport, football, basketball, track, even baseball a little bit, but mainly football. They were unbelievable. Hopefully Watonga can return to some of those glory days one of these years, but Cashin is not going to be the recipe for their turnaround, even on the road. I agree that Coach Shack is going to continue to underplay how good this Cashin team could be. Cashin needs this win to make sure they're in that one of those top 4 spots in the playoffs, and so they're going to come ready to play. I have them a 14.5 point favorite, and I think they cover that and win 35-20.
You can catch that game for free on cashinwildcats.tv with our guy Neiman Navabi on the call as always. And now our first Skordle game of the week. Chisholm 2-2 on the season with tough losses to Metro and OCS. The Longhorns face a tough test this week as the Mount St. Mary's Rockets come to Enid. Coach J.D. Runnels' team is 4-0 but faces a tough next few weeks with Chisholm, Perry, Millwood, and Jones remaining on their schedule. Tom, I believe you're calling this game, so no pick from you, but if you will just give us a breakdown of what you're expecting to see on Friday.
Yeah, you look at Chisholm's record, 2-2, but the 2 losses to 2 ranked teams. Mount St. Mary's is ranked this week. Chisholm, with their 2-2 record, they're ranked top 10 in the state in some polls as well. They've improved in the trenches on both sides of the ball, opening up holes for a running attack that continues to improve week after week. The confidence is building for Chisholm. From 0-10 to 1-9 to 6-5 last year, they're getting better and better. Last week's game, they lost 25-22 to a really good OCS team. Even though they turned the ball over 5 times, they were in that ball game. Kelson Hamilton's a good dual threat quarterback. The straw that stirs the drink on the defensive side of the ball is linebacker Easton John, among the tackle leaders in the team, but he has 4 sacks, 5 tackles for loss, and 4 interceptions in the first 4 games of the season. Mount St. Mary's 4-0. They had that opening 8-point win over Community Christian. Then they've blown out the OKC Patriots, Cassidy, and Crooked Oak. Jefferson Hodges is a sophomore quarterback. He stepped up and is really one of multiple underclassmen who are making an impact for this team. And J.D. Runnels has put a jolt in this program. Their last winning season was in 2016. They're looking for their first 5-win season with a win this week since 2017. So Mount St. Mary, they're having with J.D. Runnels, turning that program around.
Mark?
They're also going to get 3 players back this week after the Attorney General came in and popped the OSSAA on the head. So that will help them some. Hodge is a sophomore that Tom talked about. Harry Tessio is the starting quarterback on this team, and he has been out and will be ready to go in probably 3 or 4 more weeks. The Mount has not been 5-0 since 1984. So they have this would be a huge win for them. I think this is a tough game. This is a tough one to pick. I'm not going to accuse Tom of skating a loss by trying to pick this game. So I'm going to pick it. I'm going to go with Mount St. Mary in a close one over Chisholm.
Nick?
I went back and watched Chisholm's just 2 losses yesterday or today, and just to kind of see, okay, they were really like 5 to 10 plays away from being 4-0 and being a top in that district. And like what Tom said, I love me some Easton John on defense. He's been electrifying on there. Kelson Hamilton, like you said, really Malachi Bennett has been the spark plug on this offense. And I feel like Kelson and then Brandon Taylor, the wide receiver, they found their stride with 3 touchdowns in the past 2 games. I like Chisholm in this one. I'm going to pick them. I feel like they can find a way to execute those critical plays late in the game and get the job done and beat a tough Mount St. Mary's team.
Jacob Source.
Yeah, I agree that this is going to be a kind of a toss-up game. And both these teams ranked in 2A1 in the Dale Oklahoma poll. Mount St. Mary's number 9, Chisholm number 10. And that tells you how highly Chisholm's two losses are thought of, because they've lost to two excellent teams, Metro Christian and OCS. But Chisholm hasn't had much luck against the private schools. They've done better against the public schools. Mount St. Mary's has an impressive slate of wins over Community Christian, Oklahoma City Patriot, High School, and Cassidy, and then a blowout of Crooked Oak last week. I had this game a pick 'em. Like Mark said, it's a toss-up. It's a coin flip. I think this game's going to come down to what team doesn't turn the ball over in the second half. I think this game's going to come down to what team doesn't give up big plays. I think there's going to be a play in the fourth quarter in this game, that one way or the other, that makes all the difference in the game. And I'm picking Mount St. Mary's to win the game at Chisholm for obvious reasons. 30-28.
I hope you guys are right, because I love calling good games as opposed to blowouts. And last week I had a good game, and I'm hoping for another one. So we'll see.
Now let's go to Mark's game, our second Skordle game of the week. The Beggs Demons remain undefeated with a 31-21 win at Community Christian last week. This week, the Demons host the 1-3 Davis Wolves. That record obviously very misleading, as Davis has played a really tough schedule at Pauls Valley, at Sulphur, and against Plainview. Mark, give us a preview.
Yeah, that is murderer's row. I mean, those three games, they did get back on track last week and beat a good Dibble team to open up district play. I had Davis listed as a top 3 team at the beginning of the season in the class. Vian has really stepped up with their play to be the team to beat. Davis, this is a classic district matchup, right? Davis and Beggs. That's usually one we see in the third round of the playoffs, not in a district game, but that's what you have when you split Class 2A, A, and B into these separate districts. So this is a tough game. Beggs is good, really good athletes. Ryan Grayson, I think, will be the best player on the field in this game for Beggs, but I'm going to go with Davis in a close game.
Mark, taking the road team. Tom, let's go to you.
Yeah, you talk about Davis's tough schedule. Pauls Valley, Sulphur, and Plainview, they're combined 11-1, and they all play 2 classes higher now that there's the extra 2A class. They play 2 classes higher in Class 3A, so not only stepping up in competition, but stepping up in size as well. So Davis they take on all comers. Now that the Wolves are playing schools their own size, they blitzed Dibble last week 42-15. Now I picked Beggs to go on the road and beat Community Christian, and they did just that last week, 31-21. And like Mark said, this is a tough pick. I'm going Oppo. I'm going with the home team. I'll take the Golden Demons.
Nick.
Yeah, it's like y'all have been saying. I mean, Davis's non-district schedule has been one of the tougher schedules I've seen in all of the state of Oklahoma so far this year. And Mark said it best with Ryan Grayson. That dude at Beggs is really good. They're averaging 35 points per game. I know Tom said that the teams that Davis has played, they're 11-1, and kind of have a feeling that whenever you play those tough teams, you kind of figure out what you're good at, what you're not good at, and then, like you said, they get back into their class and they beat up on a good Dibble team. But I think I like Beggs in this one. I like Beggs to win it comfortably. I think by like 14. I think.
Big win for the Beggs Demons. Jacob Eastworth, go to you.
Yeah, Davis. In the power rankings, they're still a top 10 team in 2A2 despite being 1-3. And in the computer rankings, they're actually ranked ahead of Beggs, despite being 1-3. So this is going to be a really, really good game. And Davis, I agree with everybody else. Playing that murderer's row early season schedule against big school teams that are not just big school teams, but good bigger school teams like Plainview last week, and then Pauls Valley, who's got probably the best running back maybe in the state. Man, it's gonna be a good game. But I think Beggs is always a tough team to beat, and they have been especially hard to beat at home over the years. Going on the road last week and winning at Community Christian was impressive. I've got Beggs a 1.5 point favorite, and I think Beggs is going to hang on and win this game in a very tight football game, 30-28.
All right, guys, that does it
I
for
see
our
how it is.
Skordle.
I ain't scared.
So you want to create your future, discover a path worth traveling down, find a career to get excited about. For decades, Career Tech has been training talented, skilled individuals, empowering them to step into a career that fuels not only their life, but the Oklahoma workforce. These individuals are the heartbeat of this state's economy. Individuals just like you. Create your future today at Oklahoma Career Tech.
That is all for our Skordle Network games this week. Let's quickly discuss 4 of the best non-network games in the state of Oklahoma. You will not be able to watch these games on Skordle.tv, but again, these should be great matchups. Start with Owasso at Union. Mark?
Big time game. Owasso has a really good offensive line. They're young. I thought maybe next year would be their year. And the biggest key for Owasso, I think, has been their quarterback play, Drew Frankenfield. He's 19 of 22, 3 touchdowns last week against Broken Arrow. He was 15 of 18 for 274 and 3 touchdowns at Sand Springs. They've handled both Bixby and Jenks, and they handled them both by double digits plus. Shaker Ricey really good on the other side of the field for Union. Union very capable of winning this game. They had a bunch of turnovers last week, and they haven't played their best football yet. They've struggled some on offense, and I'm really not sure why, but there's no way I'm picking against Owasso in this game after what they've done so far to start the season. And they've got a chance to beat the Big Four in Tulsa in 4 out of their first 5 games. It's not going to be easy. The Union will be gunning for them, but I'm going to take the Rams.
Tom?
Yeah, like Mark just said, Owasso has a chance to do something really special here. They've already beaten Broken Arrow and Jinx and Bixby, and now they got a chance to play Union. If they beat Union, that's just that's something that does not happen in this state very much, and I think they'll do it. I like Owasso's body of work so far. I think they're going to get another big win this week.
Nick?
Every time I see, how big Bixby is a powerhouse now, every time I see them get beat, I'm just like, whoa. And then when I saw Owasso did to them, I was like, oh, wow, okay. And then, they go out and beat Jinx and everything. And so it's like y'all said, they have a chance to do something really special this week against Union. And I think they get it done. I know, yeah, it's like what y'all said about Union's offense. They have been struggling. And I just think Owasso's defense and everything, they'll just continue to cause problems for Union's offense, and I think Owasso gets it done.
Jacob?
Yeah, this is going to be a big-time football game. Owasso trying to complete the Grand Slam, I guess you could say, knocking off Jinx,
Denny's,
Bixby, Broken Arrow, and now Union, all in the same. So I don't know if they've played Broken Arrow yet, but that's probably might have missed that. But Jinx, Bixby, and now Union. It's going to be an excellent game. Union is going to strap up for this game. And Owasso, is going to have more, I think, more pressure on them than Union is coming in, especially going in on the road to a place where Owasso hasn't won very much for a long time. I do have Owasso a 4-point favorite on the road, but something tells me Union's going to pull the upset in this game. I got Union winning the game 24-21.
Jacob taking Union. Let's go to our second game, Putnam City at Choctaw. Mark?
I think Choctaw gets by in this one, and they win, setting up a district championship battle coming up 2 weeks from now when they host Stillwater. Mayor Morgan, 241, 3 touchdowns last week in the win over Piedmont, 56-40. Cash Williams, really good quarterback, weapons all over the field. Jay Corbin has built a really good program at Choctaw. They had an incredibly difficult non-district schedule with the Class 7A state champions from Kansas on the road, and then Bixby at home. Choctaw, I think, is just along with Stillwater, the class of this district, and they'll get the victory over PC here.
Tom?
I'll keep it short and sweet. I picked Piedmont last week to beat Choctaw, and we saw how that came out. I'm not picking against Choctaw this week. Choctaw.
Nick?
Kind of like y'all said, Choctaw just has the athletes and then the talent. I know Putnam City. I think they're 3-1, but this is going to be their toughest test yet this season. So I like Choctaw on this one.
Jacob.
Yeah, Putnam City 3-1. They're a much better team. They're a playoff team this year. And 6A2, they're currently ranked in the top 10 with a 3-1 record. But going on the road to Choctaw, Choctaw is the top dog in Class 6A2, or one of the top dogs. And I agree with everybody else. Have just a myriad of weapons offensively and a good defense too. Despite some of the scores they allowed early in the season, especially that one up in Kansas, 66-44. But like Mark said, we're talking about this defending 7A champions in Kansas. So yeah, I got Choctaw a 21.5 point favorite at home, and I have them winning this game 38-14.
All right, our third game, Pecola at Rejoice Christian. Tom Nelson.
Good ball game. Pecola bounced back last week after they lost to Vian by 33 points. They beat Warner last week 46-22. Rejoice Christian's on a 2-game winning streak. Now I don't know, is it Terrell or Terrell, the big tight end from Pecola, signed this week to play at Mizzou? I mean, that tells you something. SEC signing. He's 6'8", but he's only 215 pounds, which means he must be long and lanky, and I got a feeling they're going to put a lot of weight on him before he plays for the Tigers in a couple of years. But it's a tough pick. But I'm going to go with the road team this time. I'm going to go with Pecola.
Mark Rogers.
I really like Pecola a lot, and I had a chance to watch them play at the state basketball tournament. And so it's a little bit different and more athletic Pecola team than we've had in a while. Kale Marley is Coach Brent Marley's son, had a little bit of a hamstring issue, and then Rejoice rolls out a freshman at quarterback, and they roll with him there. And I think Kale's going to play this week. Should be okay. I'm going to go with Rejoice in this game. They've got a really talented offense. There should be a lot of points. I think Pecola is improved. They've got a good squad this year. I think maybe a better one than they've had in a while, but I think Rejoice is going to get the win.
Nick.
Yeah, I like Pecola in this one. It's like I said, Dakota Terrell, when I turned on the film this morning, he just stands out, and he just looks different against all the other dudes and everything. So it's like you said, he's tall and lanky, and like you said, he got the Missouri offer, or he committed to Missouri last night. So I just like Pecola to keep the train rolling, move to 4-1.
Jacob.
Yeah, it is cool to see a kid from Pecola, Oklahoma, commit to an SEC school like Missouri, a top 15 team right now. Big
Tom
time.
will tell you they're kind of half an SEC team, Missouri.
Yeah. Well,
No.
if you're in the SEC and you haven't lost yet, you're probably going to be in the top 10. That's pretty much how it works right now.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
for some reason, OU went up when they beat Auburn, and I'm not understanding that. I mean, like that was an impressive win. I don't think so. I mean, come on, give me a break. With that said, and no comment on Manhattan. This is going to be a good game. Pecola is a very talented team. They're going to have the best player on the field, on both sides of the ball. And I'm talking about the same kid. And both teams in the top 10, A1. I think both of these teams are going to be nipping at Fairview's heels come the postseason. But Rejoice being at home, I think gives them an advantage. I have them an 8-point favorite, and I have them winning the game 27-21.
All right, guys, and now our final.
Again, one last thing on that before I know we're a little short on time, but I mean, Rejoice brings in a freshman quarterback and beats CHA by 21. CHA had OCS beat before a last-second play, and CHA beat Walters last week, who's really good in this class. I think you guys are selling Rejoice a little short. Their only losses to Kasha. That's a huge class. They're a contender to win this whole class.
Yeah, got to be Rejoice and Fairview and a couple other schools kind of vying for that top spot in Class A1.
Let me say they're in a group that can challenge Fairview. I'll put it that way. I know that same level, but Hooker, I think Hooker, Rejoice is right there in that mix. CHA had that big win last week that kind of puts them in that area too with Pahuska.
Our final pick'em game tonight, Pauls Valley at Plainview. Mark, go ahead.
Oh man, Kingfisher had Pauls Valley beat last week. They were up by 20, and then Pauls Valley came back in the fourth quarter and won the game. Kingfisher did a great job on Knighton. He had 80 yards the first two carries of the game, and they held him under 100 on the night. So Pauls Valley's beaten Plainview the last 2 years. Plainview's off to an impressive start, and the issue with Pauls Valley, I think if you just put their best guys out there, they're going to be pretty good. They just don't have a lot of depth, and they got a lot of guys playing both ways. Plainview will have an edge on depth and guys staying fresh. But I'm going with the Panthers. They're way better than they've been in a long, long time with the addition of Knighton from Winnie Woods. So I think that they'll keep that streak going and beat a good Plainview team.
Tom Nelson.
It's funny, you talk about last week's game against Kingfisher. Until I was doing my homework on this game last night, I thought that Kingfisher had beaten Pauls Valley because that's the only score that we were keeping up on that during my broadcast last Friday night. I'm thinking, wow, Kingfisher beat Pauls Valley. Didn't ever hear a final score. Then I find out that Pauls Valley came back and won that ball game in a barn burner, 43-40. Tanner Perry, their quarterback, was 12 of 19 for 202 yards and a couple of touchdowns. Also rushed for 126 yards and a score. Pauls Valley has a couple of linebackers, had big games. Cash Pickett, 16 tackles. Noah Ogun had 13 tackles. This is two undefeated teams going head-to-head. Tough one to pick. I think that Pauls Valley survived their gut check victory last week, and they're going to come out ready to play this week, and I think they'll beat Plainview on the road.
Nick.
Yeah, I like Pauls Valley in this one too. It's like they've been battle tested against a tough Kingfisher team and a tough Weatherford team who they beat. But which shout out Weatherford, they just beat Clinton last week in the Custer County Conflict. So shout out to my alma mater there. But I like Pauls Valley in this one. I think it's going to be a tough one with the battle of the undefeateds and everything. But I'm going to go with Pauls Valley.
Jacob.
Yeah, it's a battle of two undefeated top 10 3A teams with very impressive resumes, very talented rosters. Obviously, Pauls Valley's tailback is, he's the X factor. Can Plainview contain him? Can Plainview keep him from exploding for big plays? Every time he touches the ball, he can break a big play. He's that electric of a football player. If you guys haven't checked out the highlights of this kid, Google his name and check out the highlights. This kid can play. But with that said, I think Plainview is going to pose a problem for Pauls Valley. I think that Kingfisher game exposed Pauls Valley a little bit. Now, Kingfisher's no slouch, don't get me wrong, but giving up 40 points I think shows maybe some weaknesses and some holes in Pauls Valley's defense. Going on the road to Plainview, another top 10 team, I got Plainview a 5-point favorite at home, and I got Plainview winning this game 35-31.
All right, guys. Any final thoughts before we wrap this thing up?
Isn't it great that the weather is changing and district play is starting and high school football is kicking into high gear? This is the baseball playoffs are starting. This is
Royals.
This is like the best time of year for a sports fan. I mean, you got college football kicking, the NFL, starting to heat up, high school football, Oklahoma high school football, kicking it on all cylinders. The NBA is getting ready to start. The Thunder preseason. I'm getting emails about Thunder games. So it's for a sports fan. This is like October. Isn't this like the best time of year? October, November, one of the best times of the year. So I'm just excited for it. And Oklahoma high school football is the icing on the cake. And so I'm like Brahms ice cream. It's that sweet.
When I ran into the sometimes host of this show, Michael Swisher at Auburn, he had a nice looking Stitch golf shirt on that I actually also own one, the very same. So we complimented each other. But I feel like tonight that in a response that Andy Campbell has stepped up his game and team issued gear, logoed apparel that looks new to me from 2024, because the team issued gear that I have maybe the 2022 version. So congratulations on stepping it up in the fashion war between you and Swish.
Thanks, Mark. I mean, my agent really came through, renegotiated my contract with Skordle, got a big raise and a lot of new apparel this week. So thanks to Adam Diesel-Horst for the hookup there.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You're
You're
start
welcome.
winning multi-million-dollar cases, and all of a sudden you show up, and I'd like to see what he's got on his feet.
Like I said, I wasn't going to bring up the Royals today because by the time this thing runs, they could be done by Thursday. But they did look a huge Royals fan, and they got that first game of the best of three, and we'll see what happens. Go Royals! It's a blue October, hopefully, and this will still be timely on Thursday when this runs. So,
Yeah, my team's the Texas Rangers, so I got my World Series championship last year, and I'm just excited to just watch playoff baseball without even have to worry about anything this year.
Well, Nick, thank you for joining us tonight. Really appreciate you coming on the show. A great job, and really look forward to reading your articles every day in the Enid News and Eagle. It's the paper that I grew up reading every morning with breakfast. So really thank you for coming on the show. And thank you all to the fans at home for joining us on the Skordle Pater Pick'em Show, sponsored by Maples, Knicks, and Diesel-Horst. As always, be sure to tune into Skordle.tv to watch all of these matchups for free. We'll be back next week. More great games.